Good evening, I'm Marshall Munson, and tonight I will be discussing alternative migration routes to North America by prehistoric humans. Now, you may ask, what do cavemen and boats have to do with each other? Before this speech, I wouldn't expect you to answer yes at all. But hopefully I can persuade you from the old theory of migration to North America, which was a land route following big game from Siberia to North America on the western seaboard. Recently, theorists are attempting to persuade the scientific community that a route from Europe is much more viable. Now, the reason that this new theory has arisen was they were reviewing the spearheads in Clovis, New Mexico, which is famous for producing Paleoindian artifacts, and found that the Siberian way of manufacturing the spearheads was not at all similar to the ones that they were finding in North America. In Siberia, what was occurring was you had your spear point, and then they took two separate pieces of wood and then put them together to hold the spear point in place. Now, these spear points were the spearhead, and then had a fluting right here on both sides so that you could stick one singular piece of wood across so that they would hold still as such. Scientists reviewed spear points from around the world to see if they could find anywhere else that would come close to this way of manufacturing, and had to look no further than southern France, which at the time was connected to Great Britain and Ireland when the sea levels were reduced, and was one large peninsula jutting out into the North Atlantic. Also, in that they were connected by a peninsula, the sea level was much lower, not only revealing the Beringian land strait in the Pacific Ocean, but also now several submerged islands in the North Atlantic that would have allowed an island hopping route across the North Atlantic from Europe, following seals and other game that was previously walking westward on the Arctic ice sheet. Now, most of these spear points that we talk about are found on the East Coast, which would make more sense if people were coming from Europe instead of those from the West. It makes no sense to cross Siberia and the Beringian land strait and arrive in Alaska and then continue going east instead of along the western coast. So this is why theorists believe that there's no way that the Siberian immigrants would have purposefully gone all the way to the East Coast. Now, as for evidence of their sea travel from Europe to the New England area, the rise in sea levels after the Ice Age would have destroyed these islands across the North Atlantic that they would have used to travel, and would also have washed away any boats along the eastern coast that they would have left there before proceeding inland. Now, this combination of spearheads not matching up with ones from Asia and the geography of the North Atlantic at that time, consisting of many islands that would provide easy passage from the British Peninsula at the time all the way across to Canada, is not entirely out of question. Now, granted, more time and evidence is going to need to be unearthed, but scientists are excited that this new theory has emerged to completely shatter how we think that men arrived in North America. Lastly, the lack of evidence also derives from a mini ice age that occurred about 1,000 years after the Paleo-Indians from Europe arrived in North America, because as the glaciers receded, water from the Great Lakes, which was dammed up in icebergs, was suddenly released into the North Atlantic, disrupting the warm water currents that provided North America with suitable winter temperatures. With this change, the temperatures plunged 30 degrees, and there was no rain, so all of the food died, and all of the soil blew away in horrible dust storms, ruining the chances of survival for any of these European-descended Paleo-Indians. With these tough challenges, historians are still trying to find evidence that people indeed came from Europe in addition to Siberia, and we will have to continually look to the future for these facts.